All right, apologies. We're back now to where we left off. So yeah, I was just wrapping up with a few operational updates from the team. So we left off at the Savinaw transfer station where we made an update to the brush crib and the loop road. Before that was in, it was fairly congested up in the drop-off area, and we have quite a few trailers, larger vehicles, and they were having a tough time. So this has really improved traffic flow and site safety, having the loop road in place. At the Clinton Eco Depot, we used to have a B-train trailer at this site. We no longer have that trailer. We use bins instead. So now we're utilizing the previous B-train area for storages of mattresses and furniture, which is a great covered area, and it's working really well. So that helps us with that diversion program. We've been working on expanding our mattress diversion at transfer stations. So we've got Spence's Bridge, Savinaw, 70 Mile. All the eco depots are accepting mattresses for diversion, and we're continuing to expand this at sites that have capacity so that we can help get those recycled. All of our mattresses go to a facility in Hope where they're disassembled and recycled. We put in a new asphalt and concrete crib at the South Thompson Eco Depot. Previously, we didn't have a good storage area for this material, so it was just kind of off to the side. So made a nice update to the crib there. This is our Black Pines transfer station, which is a pretty tiny little site. And previously, the area where you see the car at the bottom was the only space that was available. So super tight and congested. People would have to line up onto the road to get into the site, which was a safety concern. There was a joint project with utilities. They have their infrastructure just a little farther down there for the new well. And now we've been able to put a loop road in to this site as well. So great improvement for traffic flow and safety. We don't have people lining up on the road, which is great. We have been working on our connectivity at our facilities. We've had really great success with Starlink satellite. So Elon is there for us. So we've installed Starlink now this year at Agate Bay, Egan Lake, Knutsford, and Paul Lake. And up next is Black Pines, Brookmere, and Lac Lejeune. And we've also purchased 4 sets of temporary cameras. We do have all sorts of after hours activity at a variety of our sites. People come shopping for things and unfortunately can cause damage and make a mess in doing so. So we now have this little fleet of cameras that we can move around as needed. They're solar powered, they can work off wireless internet, and we can move them around as needed for problem areas. Back in 2022, our Lower Nicola scale house had an electrical fire and was really badly damaged. Happy to share that the new scale house is complete and staff moved operations back into the scale house from the temporary accommodations just at the beginning of the year. So we're glad that that's now fixed. We made some improvements to it. At the Lower Nicola landfill, so this is the TNRD's biggest active landfill. We accept around 10,000 tons of municipal solid waste and demolition, renovation, and construction here every year. And so we made a nice upgrade to the litter fence just to help contain the material, make sure that there's not blowout. And this was modeled after the fence that was put in at the Boston Flats Eco Depot. We've had really good success with it, successfully capturing what's called fugitive litter, which is one of my favorite terms. Still at Lower Nicola, this site was built back in like 2012, 2013. It's one of our busiest locations, and we really had a need to expand the collection cribs to accommodate the amount of material coming in there. So all of the cribs here have been expanded, which allows us just better collection, storage of more materials, and just easier for the staff and the public to work with. And unfortunately, we recently did have a fire event at the Lower Nicola landfill. This was on July 6th, and I'm very pleased to tell you it was nowhere near as bad as it could have been. It happened around 9 p.m. on a Friday night. And thank goodness we had contractor staff nearby who were able to respond right away. The Merritt Fire Department responded, and TNRD operational staff attended as well. The fire was in our phase 3 area of the landfill and affected about 550 cubic meters of material. When they got there, it was about 3 meters wide and 40 meters long, so pretty sizable. But thanks to quick response, the local site operator actually attended and was able to use the on-site equipment to kind of peel back the material, because with a landfill fire, they can burn down really deep, which means they can go on for a long time, which can be really scary. So fortunately, in this situation, it didn't get deep. They were able to excavate the material quickly. They used about 10,000 cubic meters of water and fire foam, and they were able to extinguish the flames. Took a couple of hours. And then the next day, after they had segregated all the materials, they did thermal imaging. They looked for hot spots. There was a little bit of smoldering material the next day that was extinguished, and then the fire was completely out. So thank goodness that was not nearly as bad as it could have been. We did have damage to our landfill active face cover. So that's what you're seeing in the picture there is the damaged cover. So that'll need to be replaced. And so they've been working on kind of repacking the material, and then they've rebuilt the cell on the active face. And there was no interruption to operations. So pretty good news. Just a couple more pictures to share with you. There's the fire department on scene, spraying the material down that's been pulled out. Some more material. And this is the next day where they took this material and just burned it. And then we're keeping an eye on it for the next couple of days. And then here they are just repacking material. So a couple of infrastructure improvements that we've been making. If you've been to a TNRD Eco Depot, you're probably familiar with these little green sheds. They've reached the end of their useful lifespan, and they need replacement. And so we've replaced them with a new design, which is these kind of horse shelter style structures. And these have been working really well. So they allow us to store the bags, keep it dry, easy for the customers and attendants to access. And so we have been continuing to replace the green huts with these new shelters, and they're working nicely. All right, and then just quickly touching on some of our capital projects for 2024. We will be putting in a compactor into the Sun Peaks transfer station. This is a unique site with the amount of tourism in Sun Peaks, mountain municipality, that there's actually around 500 metric tons of garbage coming from Sun Peaks every year, with 100 bins going down the hill to landfill. So quite a lot for transportation. So once we have a compactor in place, this will reduce our hauling costs. We've purchased 2 new B-Train trailers. So these are the big, large trailers that we have at our Eco Depot facilities for moving large amounts of waste. They hold about 8 to 10 tons at a time. Our fleet is aging, it needs to be replaced. And so 2 new trailers will be joining the fleet in October. We'll be paving a crib at the Blue River site, doing video system upgrades in Clearwater and Sun Peaks. The recycling shelters I just showed you are going into Knutsford, Logan Lake, Loon Lake, Lytton, and Savannah this year. We'll be working on getting water supply into the Lewis Creek Eco Depot and the Clearwater Eco Depot. Right now, we only have one site, Boston Flats, which actually has running water on site. So we're working to bring better kind of creature comforts and health and safety to the facilities. At Lower Nicola landfill, we'll be installing what's called a phase 3A road. So this will be part of the landfill in the new phase that we're working on. At Paul Lake, we'll be upgrading the cattle guard, the security system, and the tire crib. In Savannah, working on getting power into that facility. Right now it's on a generator system and a security system. We've had a lot of issues at that site with theft and break-ins. And in Heffley Creek, looking into doing a composting infrastructure pilot. And with that, brings me to the end of the presentation, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Directors Getz, Stamer, Sarai, Houghton, and Sao. Director Getz.
Thank you. Just gave Adrian my card and everything because we are anxious to get involved with the composting. We have a city garden around the hospital and in a residential area, and we're putting a second one in, so it would be a perfect match for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Stamer.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks to Mayor Getz for stealing my thunder and ask. Yeah, we're certainly keen as well, Adriana. Thanks very much for the presentation. I mean, I think many of our municipalities have been very proactive in our recycling programs and reduction to the landfills, and I think this is another great step forward. So thanks very much.
Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that report. Just backing up when you showed those, the dumping grounds, the household waste and that, the dumping grounds that you see, were the majority of just people leaving stuff behind, or are there shelters like homeless people that have left? That's my first question. And do we look into whose stuff it is? Do staff actually look around and find a letter or to follow up? And can we collect money for the cost that it takes us to clean that up?
Thank you through the chair to Director Sarai. There were no homeless folks living at this site. There was no sleeping area, no kitchen area, no bathroom area. It was just simply a lot of stuff that had been trucked to this location. The conservation officers were involved. We work with them very closely. They're responsible for enforcement under the Environmental Management Act. The TNRD doesn't have authority to do that enforcement. However, as part of our process, if we find identifying information, we always make sure to pass that along to the Conservation Officer Service. And related to the second question, which was recouping the costs, we do have an annual budget amount for these cleanups. It's around $60,000. And we haven't ever invoiced back another jurisdiction for the cost of the cleanup. And because we're not doing the enforcement, we haven't ever billed somebody directly. And what you find a lot of times is I hired so-and-so to come and bring this out, or it could be a landlord. It can be really difficult to actually pinpoint who it was. So the identifying information doesn't necessarily tell you that that's the person who did it. So it can be difficult to get convictions in these cases.
Also, I believe you made note in the press release that a lot of the items that you find at these sites can be deposited free of charge with no recycling fees at any of our eco depots and many of our transfer stations. So the argument that, well, of course, illegal dumping is going to go up because you raised the rates, you took away the free dumping days, et cetera, does not hold water, because a lot of these items the people who are putting them in their car and taking them into the middle of nowhere to dump them could put them in their car and take them to an eco depot to dump them, and it would still be free.
That is correct. We often find things like tires, appliances, scrap metal, recyclables, electronics, and those are all free to bring into any of our facilities. Yeah.
Thank you. Director Houghton.
Thank you, Chair Roden. Thank you, Adriana, for your presentation. A few quick items. Talking about illegal dumping, I think I mentioned this at one of our previous meetings, right at the Knutsford transfer site turnoff. There was some material, I'll just use that term, dumped over the bank, and it was not a lot, but it was kind of an ugly mess. And with all of our assistance, the Ministry of Highways and Argo Road Maintenance, they came and cleaned that up. And then there's never been any transfer station identification signs on Highway 5A, but Ministry of Highways recently put in 2 really nice ones, one at either end. And I think, not that that'll keep the dumping, but it'll, at least it shows that there's a transfer station there. And a couple other things. I've worked with the attendant at the Knutsford transfer station, trying to keep mattresses out of the garbage bins. I went there one day previously and there were 3 in there, and it kind of made my back burn when we're trying to reduce waste. So I just made a private little handshake with Joe, the attendant, and he was able to store. It's not the safest place, but 10 mattresses, and I worked with Jamie and hauled them out to Pritchard and to the recycle area, and then I was wondering when mattresses are going to be and wood pallets are going to be available to recycle at our transfer stations, because in rural areas everybody's got pallets and you kind of know where it might end up. And I know at at Prairie Coast Equipment, when I worked there, I brought in not a big bin like you have for your garbage, but a super safe bin that you have a walk-in door on the end, and our yard attendant piled all our pallets, and super safe would come and grab it on a when full, and take it up to the old Owl Road landfill where it's ground up and used for topping on their landfill. And another item, I'd just like to compliment Borough Environmental on how they've done a better job on maintaining the sites. They were there yesterday when I was there, taking a big bin of garbage out, and also the recycle truck was there, keeping the recycles current, and it wasn't like that before with the old company. So just wondering if you could answer those few things, Adrienne.
Thank you through the chair to Director Houghton. Thank you for your comments. I'll pass that along to the contractor. I'm sure they'll be happy to receive the positive feedback. We are working on the logistics of wood waste collection at Knutsford. We do intend to put in collection there in that transfer station. And we should have a mattress collection pile that our contractor is able to move. What we're doing now at the smaller sites is collecting small amounts and then transferring them to one of the larger facilities where the big truck and trailer comes and loads them up and then brings them out to Hope. So efforts much appreciated, and we'll make sure that the contractor staff is able to haul those out next time.
There's 4 there now, and with your permission and Jamie, you can let Pritchard know I'll load them up Saturday in this 40-degree heat and get them out of there before they catch fire, and get the transfer station cleaned out, but I'll take them out Sunday.
I have Director Sao.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Adriana, for your presentation. Sorry, at the risk of exposing myself for not doing my homework reading through the service contracts, I'm just curious, for the Starlink and camera installation, when you mean being installed, is that the service contractor or TNRD? One, and the purchasing of the B train, that's TNRD purchasing, not the fleet of the contractor. So that's, I mean, I guess the service contract then, it's only for them to operate, but the fleet belongs to TNRD. Okay, I see. Thank you. And the second out of curiosity, insurance for that Thompson-Nicola landfill fire, does that cover the response cost of the fire department and the replacement for the covers? Thank you.
Through the chair, great questions. In terms of the installation of the Starlink and the cameras, TNRD does that. We work with our IT department. For the camera systems, our TNRD technologists will look after that and move them around as needed. The B-Train trailers are an asset that's owned by the regional district, and then our contractor, who's our hired hauler, will then haul those between the sites, and we are responsible for care and maintenance of them, but they help us do that. So they'll bring them to a facility if they need repair. They get the commercial vehicle inspections done on the trailers. So that's how that works. And then the question regarding the insurance for the landfill, I'll have to look into that and get back to you.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right, thank you very much, Ms. Mayu, for the presentation. And that being all, we stand or sit adjourned, and we will see you all back here at 1:30.